Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 634, written by xxxxxx. Top 10 Shadows. I was very spiritual at this time. I lived on a street that had a house numbered 1666. It was creepy as you would imagine. A lonely rusted swing set outside, faded pink paint, and a parched lawn. I never saw any activity at this house. Further up the street was an address which also coincidentally had all the numbers completely gone off the mailbox, except for the number 6. The landlord I rented with at this place was also very creepy, as was the roommate he later rented out to, but that's its own story. A few incidents happened while living in this area. Firstly, the lights on the property were automatic, but would turn on for seemingly no reason, with perfect timing. For example, going to the bathroom at 3 a.m. and having it lit perfectly, or coming home late at night and having the gate light turn on for me before I even drew near it. Okay, to be fair, these are small incidents. As I mentioned, I was very spiritual and interested in the paranormal at this time. I went out one night intending to meet someone. This intention being purely in my head and mind, never having made plans physically with any person. I went out late at night and walked down the street. It was quiet and empty. As I turned right, and just off the street I lived on, I saw a shadow in the middle of the street. It was someone quietly coasting and making their way down the street. I kept walking as they passed me. I continued walking up for a while and turned around. I hadn't seen anyone else. I walked home, and just as I was turning left to go back onto my street, I looked behind me and saw a shadow on a bicycle making its way down the street again. I looked back and stared at it. I kept walking onto my street. I heard the bicycle approaching behind me. I did meet someone that night. On various other occasions did I also go out, times without intending to meet anyone, and come across this same person in the same manner, just meeting up out of the blue. Or coincidentally, he was an Aries sun and I'm an Aries moon. On another occasion did I put the intention in my mind to meet someone. I went out at night again and met someone sitting alone in the park. He was also an Aries sun. We did not remain in contact. After this, I would see him when I went out in the daytime. It was like we were bumping into each other out of the blue or coincidentally. There were never any plans. I would see him in the distance crossing the street. Different times of the same day and different days. Once I was with him with 2 other people as we walked down the street. I saw him approaching in a hoodie with his head down. As we passed, he seemed mad. He said nothing to me. On another occasion, I walked out and turned off my street. This time, as I was walking uphill, I could hear footsteps behind me. I was not scared even though I heard them approaching me, even as they began running right up to my back. Late at night and all alone, I continued walking calmly. I never did turn around, and nothing happened to me. I don't even remember hearing those footsteps running away. I continued towards the park, and there ran into a group of strangers who I mentioned to I was afraid to go back home alone. I told them what happened, and just stayed chatting there for a while. They said it's not safe to go home. I did, and saw a shadow standing there motionless, and so decided to walk a different way home. I don't know what would have happened if I had continued my normal way. Case file number 635, written by juicyvaaas. They don't make IDs like they used to. Magical. So I'm the manager of a bar in the Southeast USA, and we just recently shut down to remodel. My coworkers and I had our hammers out and we were tearing down old fixtures and hauling away rubble. My other few coworkers left me alone inside so they could take items to our storage unit. While they were gone, I found 2 lost forms of ID of the same man under the mess. One was a regular driver's license, and the other was a fire department indication card of some sort. I then went to find the man on Facebook and shot him a message about both cards being found. We even had mutual friends. Then I took my phone away and get back to work. I made a point to place both IDs on a table. I stared at them both for a second and knew for a fact they were both sitting there side by side. I was completely alone in the building as I continued working and bagging up the scraps, and maybe 5 minutes later, I found the fire department ID again. I stare at it, absolutely bewildered, and look back at the table, and only one ID, the driver's license, was sitting there. The fire ID was buried deep under wood and trash and nails, like all the way at the bottom. There's no way it could have caught on my clothing accidentally, because I had to pick up boards to get to it. And I had looked back at the table for a good few seconds to make sure both IDs were next to each other, and they were both on that table. I looked around and was in shock. My coworkers came back moments later, and I was just staring with a dropped jaw. Welcome to the Matrix, I guess. Creepy file number 23, written by Auravsha, the song that traumatized me. It was the early 2000s. I was about 5 to 6 years old and lived with my grandparents. My grandparents are very social people, and they mostly had a lot of people at home. They had so many plans and were always out for some meetings or inaugurations, clubs, etc. I was mostly cared for by my caretakers. For example, a cook, female, a nanny, a cleaning person, also female. These two ladies were true chatterboxes, and when they met, they just talked and forgot that they had to worry about feeding and caring for a child. There was a person who was secretary to my grandfather while he was young, but then retired and took on the role of gardener at our home because he had no family and he was from the same village as my grandparents. So I basically was in unofficial care of him. He taught me rhymes, counting, and so on, and I was so attached to him. He was sick, and in his last days, he started taking me out to a home which had this old lady. I don't remember much, but I clearly remember that he used to drop me off at the doorstep of this house and went back. I don't have many memories, but just that she made me sit near the window and gave me meals. She sang a lot, like literally staying there in front of me and just sang some folktales. I enjoyed this at the time, but now I get scared when I think about it. She asked me a lot of questions about my parents and grandparents. One day, she just started crying loudly and started feeding me forcefully. I don't remember after that, but I just remember that I was running in front of my yard and our driver picked me up and took me to my grandfather. I told him everything, and I didn't see the gardener and that lady after that. I asked my grandparents about this, but they say they don't remember any of this. Just that the gardener guy was a secretary and died of cancer. My grandmother told me that maybe the old lady and gardener were planning a theft because none of the feeding and singing made sense. It was weird. I don't know, I just recall it sometimes and it's just, I don't remember much. I remember feeling fed and sukoon, at peace, whenever I think of that home. But I don't remember much. As an adult and after having my share of bitterness in the world, I have concluded that it wasn't something innocent. It felt like it was once, but it feels creepy now. Creepy file number 23. If I were in your shoes with the same memories, looking back, I'd feel unnerved that there's a high chance people professing to take care of me and the land around my home were nothing more than opportunistic thieves biding their time. It's something that's always bothered me greatly, deep down, when people aren't genuine or are deceptive. I go through my own life trying to be as honest as possible. It doesn't always make life easy, but it's how I want to be treated myself. I do understand desperation, but from the sounds of it, this was their plan for an extended period of time. Thankfully, no one got hurt. The whole song thing sounds odd, as well as the fact that she fed you forcefully while crying. Perhaps she had grown to adore you and was upset at the true purpose for her being there. Maybe she was feeling guilty. I could see that. Case file number 636, written by D615, The Undeniable Aroma of Love. I've been hesitant at putting this out after my sister's story, but I too had a strange experience at the time of my mom's death. Now I'm in the USA, on the other side of the globe from my country of birth. It just so happened that I was visiting the next state over and staying the night in a hotel. So here I am in a nice clean hotel with fresh bedding. As I lay down in bed, I felt a sudden warm sensation on the top of my head. I was puzzled, so I ran my fingers through my hair. Then I had the distinct smell of the herbal oil my mom used as a cure-all. It's a family recipe and very difficult to find even in my home country. By this time, I knew my mom's health was declining, but hadn't yet been informed of her passing. So here I was in a very cowboy western part of the USA, getting a distinct aroma of a very particular home remedy from my mom's side of the family. I soon got a phone call informing me of my mom's passing. Now, in my culture, being anointed with medical oil by an older person is a sign that they are blessing you. This is done on rare occasions. The smell cannot be traced to any form of personal products or hotel room products, and it quickly vanished.